Sziasztok mindenkinek! Hello everyone, my name is Christine, and I am the host here at the Hungarian Heritage Podcast, the show where we connect your modern life to your Hungarian heritage. We will build bridges between Hungarians who live in Hungary to those with Hungarian heritage who live in all other parts of the world. Not to mention the bridges that we will build between the generations. This podcast is a place where everyone is welcome, where you don't even need to be Hungarian or speak Hungarian to join in on the fun. We will talk about all of the things that we love about Hungary, the Hungarian people, and the Hungarian culture, as well as the cool things Hungarian people are doing around the world. We will discover new things, review things you may already know, and we will have a lot of fun along the way. So, if you're looking to make that first connection to your Hungarian heritage, or you're looking to dig a little deeper, then you're in the right place. Join me as we grow this community and continue to connect the circles of Hungarians around us. On this episode of the Hungarian Heritage Podcast, I will be speaking with Didi Ijjas, or Didi as she likes to be called, and she is the creator behind Himzes by Didi. For those of you who may not know, the word Himzes means embroidery in Hungarian, and Didi is here to tell us all about how her passion for embroidery has turned into her business. Of course, we're going to talk about Didi's Hungarian heritage as an Argentinian-born Hungarian and how she is now studying at university in Budapest. Listen along as we stitch together Didi's story of growing up in a Hungarian community in Argentina to how she is now stitching her embroidery wherever she goes in Budapest, and how you can purchase some of Didi's beautiful and modern interpretations of Magyar Himzes. Please join me in welcoming Didi Ijjas to the podcast today. And she is here to tell us all about, obviously, her Hungarian heritage and also about her embroidery business, Himzes by Didi. So we're going to talk all about those things. But first, I wanted to thank you for being on the podcast today and welcome. Welcome to the podcast, Didi.
Thank you for having me.
Of course, of course. So I was attracted to your account because you do such beautiful embroidery work. But before we, dig into that, we always have to start about your Hungarian heritage. So tell us a little bit about your Hungarian heritage. I know you weren't born in Hungary, so tell us about both your mom and your dad and all about that. I don't want to spoil it, so you go ahead.
So yes, basically I was born and I grew up in Argentina, in Buenos Aires, because my grandparents, they came from Hungary. They arrived to Buenos Aires. 3 out of my 4 grandparents were actually Hungarian, Germanish related, and they arrived to Buenos Aires in 1948 and 1949. And they didn't really plan to go to Argentina, but that was the cheapest and the first option they had. So they took that as an opportunity. And one of my grandma was 11 years old when she arrived. So for her, it was a bigger impact, I believe. I remember her telling me how her first day of school was with first graders. And she felt really ashamed because she was 11 years old and the other kids were 6, 7 years old. And I remember that from her side. And my other grandma was 22, so she was also pretty young, but at least she didn't have to face that high school or school experience.
Right.
And basically the 3 of them, one of them was from Budapest, the other was from more the Serbia region, right. And my grandma was from what used to be Hungary, but is now a part of Austria. And basically my parents also met in the Hungarian community.
Right.
And they were both Hungarian scouts because there in Argentina, in Buenos Aires, we have a pretty big Hungarian community. with a Hungarian school, like weekend school, but also Scouts. And I would say that Scouts is the most active organization we have,
Right.
and they met there.
So a lot of people may or may not know that there is such a large Hungarian community in Argentina, and there is. And I remember when my grandmother was telling me when she and my grandfather and my dad left during the 56 revolution, there were like a few choices of, which airplane they could get on, of like where they would move. One was, England, one was the US. And I don't remember what the third one was, but one of them was definitely in South America, which was pretty funny. Like there are large groups of Hungarian communities, in Argentina. And I do know somebody else that is, from that region as well. Your parents both come from Hungarian roots, from Hungary, and they met though in Argentina growing up, and that's how they met. That's pretty interesting. So tell us a little bit about, you said they met in Hungarian community. Tell us about that. Did you grow up around a Hungarian community? Obviously, you said you were in Scouts, so we'll get to that. But were you surrounded by Hungarian families and those opportunities?
Yeah, I mean, my growing up, my week used to be going to school. I went to a German school to support that side of the family. But on the weekends, I had no other choice than going to in the mornings to the Hungarian school. It was kindergarten till I turned 18, I think.
Right.
Yeah, till I turned 18. And after that, we had Hungarian Scouts. And then when I got older, I joined also the folk dance group. But basically, yeah, my weekend, like the official weekend, was just Sundays.
Right, exactly.
But I really had a lot of fun there. I really had we were not a super big group
Right.
in my age, but we were eight friends. So we had a really close relationship to each other. And most of us were also pretty related. Like my friend was also my third cousin or aunt or something like that. But yeah, and apart from that, also of course the big events like the 56 commemoration and March 15. So we
Right.
also used to go there.
Yeah, so basically, you did have a very heavily involved Hungarian experience growing up and even through now as well. But that it's kind of like, even though they were your friends or distant cousins, it was really like being with a big family, when
Yeah.
you grow up in a community like that. And I know, there are a lot of places where it's very similar, where basically you go to school in whatever country you're in, whether it's the US or wherever, but then Saturdays and, you're busy with Hungarian school and folk
Yeah.
dancing and scouts. So that's pretty great. So tell us a little bit about like scouts. How involved were you with that? And like, what was that experience like for you?
I believe it was the best experience ever because
That's great.
I loved going to Scouts. There was a time when I was a teenager, like 12 till I turned 14, I believe, that I didn't really enjoy going to Scouts because I also like to do gymnastics at my school. And the problem was that competitions were on Saturdays. So it was either Scouts or the competitions. But after that, I chose the Scouts, and I really did enjoy it because it was. We also, of course, we did the normal scouting things, but at the same time, we focused on maintaining our Hungarian heritage through the folk songs, history, geography, and a lot of things. And I really enjoy that. Also, the summer camps, probably the best memories I have are come from the summer camps, sharing a tent with other four girls, and yeah, a lot of just good memories. I am still a scout. I'm going now to the US for a camp,
Right.
so I'm not as active as I was in Argentina because here you don't have you have a Hungarian scout group, but it's not the same as our focus of
Right.
scouting. But yeah,
That's great. That's great. So where in the US are you going to scout camp?
there is gonna be a big camp in Fillmore.
Okay.
The Hungarian Scouts have a pretty big field there, and now it's gonna be like a UB. It's called UB camp, where this is held every 5 years, and basically all of the groups from different parts of the US gather there, and there is a pretty big camp happening. I think they expect 1,000 scouts, so it's gonna be big.
That's exciting. That's exciting. I have friends in the community near me, and I have a feeling that they might be going as well. I'll have to ask them when I see them next week. It's so funny what a small world it is. Do you know offhand how many places are attending this camp, from around the world? Is this like a big thing?
It is a big thing, yeah. I know there are also scouts coming from Slovakia.
Wow.
Okay, Argentina. I have some friends going from Argentina. Maybe Brazil too. I suppose Germany. So all of the Hungarian, because there's a pretty big Hungarian scouting organization, and all of them will join, or some of them join the camp.
Wow. Sounds amazing. I hear, some of my friends talking about their summer camp, scouting camp situations, and it sounds like a lot of fun. You're definitely too young to remember this unless you watched vintage cartoons. But there was a Flintstones episode where all of the camp groups got together. It was like a big jamboree. So when you speak of these things, and when I hear people talk, and people my age, we always remember that cartoon about like the big scouting jamboree. So
yeah, it's a jamboree. I didn't come up with the word, but it's basically a jamboree.
Oh, so it is just like the Flintstones jamboree. You'll have to look that up on YouTube. It's a pretty funny episode. Yeah, I'm sure a lot of the listeners that listen to this podcast will know exactly what I mean. So when they talk about that, or when they listen to this. You had a big Hungarian community growing up. Now, had you had the opportunity to visit Hungary, growing up? Like, did your parents and grandparents ever go back? Tell us about that.
No. When I was growing up, my family or my grandma used to talk about Hungary as the place.
Yes.
It was really like mythical thing for me. One of my grandmas, she came several times just to visit some relatives, just for having fun.
Right.
But my other grandma, she never came back. That's something I believe is really shocking or interesting. But I think the first time I came to Hungary was when I was 15 or 14 years old. And basically, I came for 3 months to go to a high school. So instead of doing my summer in Argentina, I came here and I joined here a high school, which I came also with my other classmates. And it was really fun. I never had a winter like this, because where I live, we don't have so strong winter, but this was a cold winter. But it was also really fun to see and to live in another country. That was my first time here. And after that, I came several times. But my first time in Hungary was when I was 15. 14,
so I have to ask, you said that when you were hearing about Hungary, this mythical place, when you were growing up, the first time that you went there that summer for, when you did the high school, did you feel that connection immediately of this, like all the stories that like your family told you? Like, was it all coming together? Did it hold up to that mythical place that you imagined?
It was shocking. I must admit that it was a great experience, also because I was shocked about the fact that things they told me are actually real. Like, there is a white bridge, there is a Liberty Bridge, there is the Gellértér, and everything I've learned, I could actually see or go to. So I really enjoy that. Of course, now it's more natural, I see it every day, so it's not a super big thing. But at the time, it was really surprising, and especially the fact that everyone spoke Hungarian. Like, I was on the streets and I could listen to everyone's conversation. I was like, they speak Hungarian. How come? that was really funny.
Yeah, not just in your little community in Argentina, like everybody did. That's so
It was
crazy.
not a secret language anymore. I had to switch to Spanish. So
I love that. I love that. I have to say that like the first time I visited, I was an adult, but I still had
Mhm.
that, oh my goodness, like it really is exactly how, I mean, obviously we have the internet, you grew up with that. I mean, I didn't. I could look at pictures, but it's definitely that first time. All the myths, as you said, came true. So now you're going to college in Budapest. Did you always, in your mind, after visiting that summer, say to yourself, I'm going to college in Hungary? Did you have that in the back of your head?
Um, yes and no. So
Okay.
I knew that once I finished high school, I wanted to spend a year here, but
Okay.
not for college, for another like scholarship they have. It's called Balashi, and basically you come here, you study language, culture, history, a lot of things about Hungary.
Yes.
And a lot of my Hungarian scout friends did this, and I always thought, okay, that's a great gap year excuse because I come here, I have like a routine, I have something to study, yeah, I'm not just taking a gap year. Um, but the problem was that once I saw how life was actually here, not just 10 days living in Budapest, but some months, I realized that I really like the city and I got really used to the city and being here. And I thought about, okay, if I spend a year here, I can just study here too. Why not? And yeah, I went back to Argentina first, and that's when I had the weird conversation and with my parents, like I believe I want to go to Hungary to study. They didn't like it because they wanted me to stay in Argentina with them. Um, but I managed to
To
get their
convince
acceptance.
them. I think some of my favorite things that you just said were like the gap year excuse. I feel like that could be a whole
Mhm.
book you could write, right? The gap
Yeah.
year excuse and give lots of options. But yeah, I mean, I think I agree. Everything that you said about like once you're in a city and you get used to it, I feel like I could do a whole series on like just how great Budapest is,
Mm-hmm.
just getting around, just everything about it. Obviously, we both are biased when it comes to that because we love it,
Mm-hmm.
right? And
Mm-hmm.
you're fortunate enough that you get to live there while
Mm-hmm.
you're going to school, which is great. And I'm sure that obviously your parents acquiesced and said, of course, this would be a great experience because you're there now. And I understand you definitely don't want to see your kids so far away, but you also want to see them grow and blossom
Mm-hmm.
into. So, have they visited while you're in Budapest?
Yeah.
That's great. Now you have to just convince them to move there, right? So you
Yeah.
guys,
That's the next step.
that's the goal. You're just taking it slowly. That's pretty cool. Now, if you don't mind me asking, what are you studying in college?
I'm studying communication and media science.
That's exciting. I think you'll have a good future with that. Most importantly, we're not here just to talk about your heritage. We're here to talk about your embroidery. And you've been embroidering for a long time. It's not just like your business. It's not like you just
Mhm.
like to do it. It's your passion. And some of the questions I'm going to ask you will let the listeners realize that you embroider in a lot of places.
Mhm.
So first tell me how you grew up a little bit as a crafty person and your family got you inspired to start doing some embroidery. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so I really always enjoyed the DIY videos and everything. If I liked something, I believed I could also do it. Or if I asked my mom for help, she could help me and I could do my own shirt or my own shoes or whatever.
Right.
And she also had a pretty big um, artwork, like an embroidered piece of fabric that was put in the living room and very nicely. I believe it can be called an artwork. And apart from that, we also had a lot of pillowcases that had some embroidery, like tablecloths. And my grandma also had a lot of embroidered things. And that's probably the one thing I like the most about the whole Hungarian folk art. Yeah, I also remember seeing some of my grandma's work and believing like, wow, she really had some time to do this. Wow,
Yeah.
she really must have liked it. And maybe I'm not sure about it, but I think that through the scouts I got to embroider my first things,
Right.
because we had some activities in the camps that were about embroidering.
Right.
And because since it's something Hungarian, we had to do it, and I really liked it. But it was not till I think 2 years ago when I was looking for a specific tote bag, a specific color, specific material, specific everything, and I could not find it here in Budapest, where I assumed you can find anything with a nice embroidery. So I decided to do it myself. So I bought some fabric, I put a tote bag together, and then I did the embroidery. And I really liked the result. And I also started doing some sweatshirts. I did a shirt for my brother, or something for my brother, and something for my boyfriend. I did also like a wedding present. And they thought like, you should turn this into a business, because people will like this. They can buy it. I was not sure about that, because I thought they will think the same as I thought, that you can get here any embroidered thing in a shop, so you don't have to buy from someone who does it. But it turned out really good, and I've been embroidering a lot, maybe too much in the last 2 years. But I still really enjoy it. I love it because I'm not stressed while I'm doing it, so I still enjoy it a lot.
That's great. Now, some people carry a book, but you carry your embroidery with you, like in your bag, in a tote bag that you probably embroidered. So tell us some of the interesting places that you've done your embroidery.
I love to do it on a train, for example, when I'm just going somewhere, and instead of being on my phone or just looking out the window, I take the opportunity and do some embroidery. But I've been wherever I go, I have something I can embroider on. So when I'm in Argentina, I embroider. I also had the opportunity in the US, in Spain, and I was also in Singapore and in Indonesia. Wherever I go, I take something. The worst thing that can happen is that I forget a needle. That's the worst thing. And then I'm just sitting there wanting to embroider, and I can't.
That's pretty great. So you definitely make sure that you don't forget the needles when you travel to places, because at least it keeps you busy in the downtime. You're sitting in an airport or on a train or throughout your travels. That's pretty cool. Now, do you notice any connections between like the embroidery that you do or anything like that's Argentinian inspired? Are there any similarities in embroidery or any connections?
We don't have in Argentina that much of an embroidery culture. It's more of wool.
With wool, okay.
Yeah, so it's not really embroidery. It's not a part of the culture. We have some like nice patterns, but they're not embroidered.
Right.
Um,
Okay.
so sadly,
I wasn't sure if there was any like connection between like the two cultures where you would be able to like mesh the cultures, like the patterns and things like that. Himzes by Didi. You started this business and you haven't stopped. And if you look at Didi's social media, you'll see that she does a great job advertising her work all over Budapest. So tell us some of the places that you've put your embroidery work and have made social media content, because it's pretty cool.
yeah, I also think I'm in a great position because I have this beautiful city where I can film content for my business, but at the same time, there's this beautiful background, so my content get more views, not because
Yeah.
the things I embroider, but also because of the views. So that's a great thing. I really like to film like next to the Danube because it's always nice out there, and yeah, the colors are always nice. Also, I had some pictures and videos taken up in the Buda
Mhm.
side, Buda Castle, and the Matyas church. And in there, I believe that's where I created the most visually nice pictures, because the colors were great. The buildings and the statues over there were also great.
Those were some pretty great little videos that you created, especially up near the church, and then the Fisherman's Bastion with the statues where they're wearing like your tote bags. Like that was really cute. That was a great idea. And you do have a great background for content. So why not use it? I look forward to the additional places that you create your content. That'll be a lot of fun. Tell us all about this new project that you've been working on, Himzes by Everyone. Tell us what Himzes by Everyone is all about.
So Himzes by Everyone was a little workshop I did. It was not an official workshop, so I didn't publish it or made it available for everyone, because through the scholarship I'm in, we have this mentoring program for the diaspora students, and I'm a mentor in that. So I'm a diaspora student, but at the same time I also mentor for the new students. And basically we had the idea of doing a workshop where I can teach some other students to embroider. It was really fun, especially because I had a friend who made the same mistake 2 times. Instead of embroidering just one fabric, he was embroidering 2 fabrics at the same time, and it was like a bag. So we had to cut it and start over.
Oh no!
But it's definitely something I want to do, because I got some really positive feedback asking if this is actually a workshop happening and if they can join next time. So I want to do some workshops, of course, in person. I believe it's better, but at the same time, I think it's also manageable online. We have just to gather some enthusiastic people and patient people who like to learn something. So,
well, I think that's amazing. I mean, I can totally understand why you did that experience. It was through your university, so that's why you created that. But what a great opportunity for you also to, come up with something for yourself to create classes. And I really do believe a lot of people would be very interested in that. If you do create something that's online, I'm pretty sure I can find a whole bunch of people that would be interested in doing that experience. What you could do also is have almost like a mini tutorial video for some basics that people have to like do before the actual class, and that might cut out a lot of like the questions essentially, especially if you're doing it virtually. But how great is that? I look forward to seeing more about that. And, maybe if you start running more classes the next time I'm in Budapest, maybe I'll be fortunate enough to be there at the right time, which would be pretty cool. How do people purchase your items? So tell us about that. Tell us about, do you have pre-made things? Can they order things? Give us all of those details.
So basically all of the above.
All of the above. Okay.
And sometimes if someone asks me for something customized, they want a specific color with a specific tote bag or a fanny pack or whatever, I really like to do customized orders. But at the same time, not every day or every week I get customized orders. So I also take it my own. I start creating. And so that's why I also have a lot of things in stock, if we can say that.
Yeah.
And I've been embroidering mostly Hungarian related embroideries and things, but at the same time I also got some requests about some random things, like my brother asked me for some fishes and another girl asked me for just the names. So I also do that. Of course, it's a different work I also enjoy, but at the same time I personally prefer the Hungarian ones because I like them more. But yeah, I don't have a website yet. I'm working on that. But basically how you could purchase something is through Instagram or WhatsApp or Facebook. You just
Sure.
can write me a message. And
Yeah.
I do ship to the US and most of the countries. Shipping is always a little bit complicated because it's
Yeah.
always like that. But at the
Shipping's
same
always
time,
complicated no matter what.
yeah.
So
I already sent some things to the US and I was a little bit stressed about
right.
them arriving, but everything worked out pretty good. And what I do also sometimes is when I go to the US or when I go somewhere, I take some stuff with me just in case someone is interested. Yeah, for example, now that I'm gonna go to the US, I have already some customers that told me specifically what they want, and I'm taking that with me.
That's
Yeah.
great. Yeah, that's cool. So not only can you order from Himzes by Didi, through the mail, you can
Mhm.
also attend one of the markets you've been showing your things at. Tell us some of the places in and around Budapest.
I attended the Simpla market. Simpla
Mhm.
is a pretty big or famous
Yes.
room bar here in Budapest. And once a month, they have like a craft design market in the bar, which was pretty fun. I really like the vibe of the bar. And
Yeah.
I think the things or the items I sell really suit the vibe of the place.
Yeah, it's a great
Um,
place. Even though people say it's touristy, and I know we're not talking about that specifically, it's still a
mhm.
lot of fun. It's just the
Yeah,
vibe is great. So that's pretty
yeah.
cool that you got to sell your things there.
Yeah, and also a lot of tourists
Mhm.
there, so that was great. And I've been going to the Gojdu market. Gojdu Udvar is like a pretty big udvar, and this is a bigger market, and this market goes through the whole week, so from Monday to Monday, from 10 a.m. till 5 p.m. And people, there are more people in that market because people just
Right,
walk by because that's more of a touristic attraction than
right,
the Simpla. Simpla, so people go to Simpla to have a drink or chat, not to for the market itself.
right.
The Goju market is more famous for its market.
So now I feel like if that's the market I'm remembering, is that the one where it's like down, like almost like a little street and there's like an arch at the end? Is that?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. I know exactly what you're talking about. That's a really great place. So good for you.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I'm
Yeah.
sure that over the next months and, within the next year that you'll be at a lot more markets and your website
Mm-hmm.
will be up and you'll
Yeah.
be famous, even more famous, with all of your embroidery. But I think the most important thing is that like you love it. You love what you
Mm-hmm.
do. You love this connection to your Hungarian heritage and doing all of the embroidery. I feel like I look forward to, taking a class, whether it's virtually or in person.
Mm-hmm.
So we did talk a little bit about the first time when we spoke how, there is very, I don't want to say prescribed rules when it comes to Hungarian embroidery, like with their
Mm-hmm.
colors and things like that, and which is great. But I feel like we discussed a little bit that you take a little bit of license or your own, you've taken your passion in a direction that you could embroider whatever you want, use whatever colors you want. Tell us a little
Mm-hmm.
bit about some of those examples of how you may or may not use the colors that are generally used, but you use your creative embroidery stitching.
So yeah, basically, I really love the traditional embroideries, but at the same time, I realized that I cannot wear that every single day without wanting to switch the toe back or wanting to change something because it has too many colors. It doesn't match every time with your outfit or whatsoever.
Right.
So I thought that maybe if I have a tote bag that has one or two colors, that would be easier. And basically I also like, I mean, it's more like monochromatic what I
Mhm.
do. So most of the times I have a tote bag color and then I choose a pretty similar color to the tote bag color or another color, but not all of the traditional colors like red, green,
Right.
blue, pink, because
Right.
sometimes it is too much. I really love the traditional one,
Sure.
but not as an everyday
Yeah.
use or yeah,
I get it.
etc.
And also too, just even like getting dressed for every day. You don't want to look like you're, getting dressed in a cultural themed outfit,
Mm-hmm.
like a costume. not in a negative way, but like you want it to be a little bit more blended in with your everyday wear. So essentially, you've taken a little bit more of a modern fashion
Mm-hmm.
twist the way you use like the monochromatic colors, which is
Mm-hmm.
pretty great because all of the traditional things are beautiful. And I have many things myself, but it is
Mm-hmm.
nice to have things that maybe are a little more subtle, that you
Yeah.
could wear to class or wear to work or out
Mm-hmm.
to a restaurant and not stand out like, oh, look at, that. I like that you've taken the style in that direction, which is, made Himzes by Didi like your personal brand, like you have like a thing now. And I like that. So tell us what's coming up for you. What should we look for?
Um, I really want to start making some clothes
Oh,
pieces.
yeah.
Like I'm really thinking about some vests.
Yeah.
But like again, some more sophisticated and monochromatic vests.
I love that.
And because I know there's some traditional vests with super colorful
Hmm.
patterns. So I want to again take it a step back and just
Sure.
one color, two colors. And I also like, apart from embroidering, I also like using the sewing machine. So I'm hoping I can do that.
Wow.
But yeah, now that it's summer and I have more time for brainstorming, I was thinking about doing more products or more items. So I started doing some keychains not long ago. I want to do some book covers, but I'm just also thinking about that. And basically, my biggest goal for now is to finish the website and make that a running website.
Well, you have a lot of exciting things on the stove, a lot of things on all the burners, which is good and it's exciting. And I know that once people hear this episode and they hear all about your amazing artistry with your embroidery, they're going to be excited to follow along. And when your website's ready, I think the orders are going to rush in. You might have to employ some people to do some of your
Yeah,
pattern, right?
that would be great. Yeah.
Yeah, pretty soon you're going to have your own boutique, I'm sure, somewhere in
Mm,
Budapest, and that'll be exciting. So, it's lovely when you see people follow their passion and do things that make them happy because, like you said,
mhm.
it's relaxing. So when you're doing things that make you happy, that's when great things come. So I will leave all of the information in the show notes about how people can follow along with you and follow your embroidery and order your embroidery pieces. And I look forward to seeing more of your classes. Hopefully, they will be online soon. And we'll make sure that we advertise that out on our social media as well when those things happen so people can connect with you. So thanks so much for being on the podcast today and sharing your Hungarian heritage story and all about your business, Himzes by Didi. And it was lovely to have you.
Thank you very much.
Oh, you're very welcome. I look forward to seeing you soon. Thanks for joining me today on this episode of the Hungarian Heritage Podcast. And thanks to my guest, Didi Ijjas, for sharing all about her Hungarian heritage journey and her passion for embroidery. Don't forget to check the show notes for this episode to find out how you can connect with Didi and purchase some of her beautiful Himzes creations. And don't forget to follow her on social media so you can see all of the amazing places she posts her new creations all around Budapest. If you have feedback or questions about today's episode, or you would like to connect with me at the podcast, you will also find my email, social media information, and podcast website in the show notes. If you've enjoyed this episode and you're interested in learning more about this Hungarian heritage community that we are building, please don't hesitate to reach out. I would love to hear from you. Our theme music is Hungarian Dance by Pony Music, used with special license from Envato Market. Thanks again for listening, and don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review wherever you listen to your podcast so we can continue to connect our modern lives with our Hungarian heritage and grow this Hungarian heritage community. Until next time, goodbye everyone. Sziasztok mindenkinek!